The talking about the naming thing, I will not say what the names were, but whenever I first lived in freshman year of college, one of the guys was playing Final Fantasy VII, and he he changed all the names to things that would be um, rather obscene. Tifa had a name related to her physical appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was some parts where, because of their name, whenever there was like, he's such a so and so's face, talking about some other things, whenever they would say, you're like, oh man, that's, if that wasn't the fact that that was his name, that would just be that would be incredibly terrible to have a name like that. But it, like, his name would roll into the conversation really well. And I cannot repeat any of the names that he named his characters, mostly because I don't want to get Chewie in trouble.
Who was this?
This is one of the guys that you wouldn't have known him. He was one of the guys on my hallway back in Grogan.
Oh, right. Okay. That sounds like the people I lived with in my dorm freshman year. So, yeah. Just a bunch of reprobates.
Like, it was.
Sometimes I wonder how many of them actually finished.
Well, I know
because
one. I know one of the guys.
I would see a couple of the guys, like, from my floor freshman year, occasionally. I know one guy got kicked out. Like, wasn't allowed back on campus, kicked out.
Wow. Yikes.
Yeah, he was, he sucked.
I had one guy on the hallway that he really was just a piece of work. He never went to class. I think he may have gone to class the first little bit and then just decided, no, I don't want to go to class. He never left. Decided to go get food. He never left the room. He would socialize with us, but we all were like, we really don't want to hang out with you because you really are just a terrible person. And yeah, after the first, he was on probation, I think, after midterms, and then he got booted out after that. And then there was, of course, the guy at the end of the hallway. He went through, I think, 3 roommates before he got a roommate that he could stand. His first roommate actually was pretty cool, but I think he decided that I think he pledged. That's what happened. Is that his first roommate was actually a decent human being, but he pledged, and then he moved out, and then he got a homeschooled person who was
super awkward.
Wasn't socialized.
Super awkward. Super trying to find the right. He didn't know how to interact with people.
Right.
Like, you would say hi, and he would just look down and walk away from you. Like, I'm like his first interaction with his roommate was, he would say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he just looked down and just didn't say a word, moving into the room.
Which is completely different than the guy on my hall one year, who you would say hi to and he would just act like he didn't hear you. It turns out it's because he didn't hear you, because Mike lived in his own little world. It was Mike, by the way.
Screw that guy.
Yeah.
We forgave him, though, but...
Seems like we said to Lefty once, dude, your roommate's kind of a dick. And didn't you say you heard us say that once?
I don't
Which
know.
was never... No? Okay, good. And Lefty was like, nah, he's not that bad. And then, turns out, no, he just literally was not paying attention to anybody. He was like, what's up? And it's not that he ignored us. He didn't hear us. He wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, like, I can't do anything visual and listen at the same time, and I still have trouble thinking and listening at the same time, and it used to be even worse. So if I'm walking along and I'm really thinking about something, I just have trouble seeing and hearing things.
Do not let Mike try to walk and chew gum either.
Oh no, no! You remember that one time? No.
Right?
Thought we weren't going to talk about that.
Look, we're not going into specifics. Just we got a good talking to from the cleanup crew.
Love you, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Oh man.
That was also the year that we had the two guys that, I mean, they were obviously like the sports all-star players and everything. I mean, they were party animals, but the best one was that they got really drunk in their rooms and they had to go to the bathroom, but they were so drunk they couldn't figure out how to unlock their door. So they had to get the people across the hallway. They knocked on the door apparently enough to get their attention, and then through the people had to describe how you unlock the door.
Oh my god.
The door's locked on the inside where they were, but they couldn't figure out how to unlock the door.
And okay, that's one of the high rises, and I think all the high rises were built the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You turn the thing.
That's all you have to
Yeah.
do. Yeah. But apparently they were so out of it that they couldn't figure out, and they had to go to the bathroom.
That is intense alcoholism right there when you can't figure out how
yeah.
to turn the thing.
And then through the people have to explain, okay, look down. There's a little thing that you can turn, and you need to. I guess they must have been. I think they were trying to unlock it, but they kept locking it. Is what happened. So, but that was the other fun story. From that, there were some other fun ones, but that's I'll end all my amazing stories of the high rises with that one.
Good lord. I still remember the time I was sitting in the room playing a video game. So our RCA, which normal colleges call RAs, by the way. I don't know why we had CAs, but because we didn't have resident advisors or whatever they were called. We had community advisors.
Mm-hmm.
Because community or something. But RCA was gone. We did not have one for a couple weeks. And in a freshman dorm on one of the guys' floors.
Oh,
that was, yeah. So I was sitting in the room playing video games one afternoon. And my roommate, who I'm not going to name just in case, was outside in the hallway doing something with one of the guys down the hall. And all of a sudden, I heard a loud crash. And he came running in, slammed the door behind him, and hopped into his bed and covered up. And was like, I'm not here. And I went, what the hell just happened? And he goes, nothing.
Yes,
And
because
so-
clearly that's believable.
Yeah. And so, of course, I get up and open the door and look out and see like 4 other heads poked out. And there was a fluorescent light directly above the ceiling, directly outside of our door. It didn't have like a casing; it was just a long fluorescent light that was bare. Essentially, that's how they all were on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, my roommate and another guy down the hall were throwing a CD like it was a frisbee.
Oh.
And it caught some air when he threw it on one of the throws and went up and just went through the bulb.
What?
Because I don't know if you've ever thrown a CD, but those things can book it if you put enough oomph in it. And it just... And, yeah, there was broken glass that started outside of our door and went down 2 doors.
What?
Yeah. The, nobody that was in charge was happy about that. And, obviously because it was outside of our door, they were... And of course, at that point, my roommate had already left. And I was like, "What's up?" They're like, "You know anything about this?" I'm like, "I think some guys were throwing something and something hit the light." And he goes, "You know who?" And I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "All right." And thank you. And I said, "Yeah, man." And that was that. But like, what did you... Granted, my roommate freshman year was not terribly intelligent.
Well, that was the freshman year was the year you weaned out a lot of the people who may not have had the intelligence to make it through college.
I mean, he was intelligent. He just wasn't...
Common sense intelligent.
He had no sort of control.
Very
You hear the stories about the people who go to college their first year and they cut loose and then ruin their lives. I mean, he didn't ruin his life, but he didn't come back the next year. Mike knows who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
So yeah.
Yeah, with my story, I'm trying to keep them PG. There were some stories that I don't want to go into graphic detail about. Looking at the chat and everything, like I said, I don't want to get Chewy in trouble, and I definitely don't want this to get flagged or have to blip out some parts. So,
Oh, from college.
and that's the thing. I think with a lot of the college stories is there's a lot we could talk about, but there's a lot that we really should not talk about.
Oh, from college. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
You guys know some of my college stories.
yeah. Brian had long hair.
That was not the one I was referring
I have a
to.
picture of it.
Oh God. I'm still trying to figure out how it is that my freshman roommate got mad at me once because I came back from class and he and his girlfriend were having sex. But he didn't lock the door.
How
Or
inconsiderate.
put a sign on it.
Back.
Like there was, I just came in and he's like, "What the? Get out!" And I'm like, "You didn't even lock the door. I didn't have to put the key in." Like, you can't get mad at me because you're stupid. So like, I dropped my stuff and like left again, as quick as possible, because ew. And later, he like yelled at me for it. He's like, "Man, she didn't want to finish after that." And I'm like, "Whose bad is that?" Like, you didn't even lock the door, so you could hear the key go in and like cover up or something. Write a sign on the whiteboard that says, "Don't come in, we're naked." And I wouldn't have seen it because
Put something on the door that says,
Socks,
"Don't
or,
come in."
Yeah, there's all sorts of ways that you can.
Mm-hmm. Have that sign that okay, before as the first day of being a roommate, we have to come up with some signals that say something is happening in here. Please don't come in. That's
but like
that's like roommate 101.
my sophomore year, I get back from out doing stuff one night, and there's a pair of pajama pants hanging on the doorknob, and I went, "You know what? I'm not going in there." Like, cause that's serious. He hung his pants on the damn. And then later, like a couple hours later, I had to be like, "Dude, I gotta go to class in the morning." Like, he's like, "I mean, you could come in, but you might not like what you're saying. Like, could you please like finish up? It's been like 2 hours, man. I gotta sleep." Oh, I miss Keej. You want to, okay, so, this is gonna get a little weird, but remember, this was in 2000, okay? It was 20 years ago, it was a much different world. you want to hit someone hard with how to deal with people that are different than you, then their second year of college, you make them roommates with a gay black man. That was an experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Not only that, a gay black theater guy who was a dancer, singer, actor. Not in that order. How did he put it? He was actor, singer, then dancer, I think was the order he put it in. And he was like the best.
Yeah.
I freaking loved Keej. He was awesome. Except for that one night.
so I had a couple different roommates throughout college, not because of anything I did, but just because, people shifted back and forth. And my first semester, I was paired up with a senior who ended up pledging for his second half of his second for the second semester of his senior year, and kind of he was a really smart guy, and I ended up getting a new roommate for the second semester. And again, 20 years ago, literally, we're talking about the year 2000 was the year that I started college. I didn't really know anyone that was okay. I probably knew someone in high school that that was not heterosexual, but it was not something that was really talked about. There was one guy that I knew that was in the theater, and there was always that kind of like, is he? And he had a girlfriend, and there was a question of like, I think since then he has come out, but otherwise hadn't really, I knew that homosexuality was a thing, but I didn't have a whole lot of, I hadn't really met anyone, had any discussion.
He was sheltered, but not that sheltered.
There you go. So my second semester got this new roommate, seemed like a great guy, and we talked a little bit, seemed to get along well, and I came back and he was on the phone and he was coming out to his parents.
Whoa.
And this is back in the day when instant messenger was still a thing. You remember that? And I got on there and I could tell what was going on, and I was like, do you want me to leave? He's like, you don't have to. And I said, I am okay to stay. He said, I am so sorry. And I'm like, no, I am so sorry, because I could tell. For one thing, his mom was quoting scripture at him, and you can only imagine.
Oh.
Yeah. So we talked about it a little while afterward, and I said, no, I've never really had that experience, but you seem like a good guy to me. I honestly really didn't even think that much about it. And then I went home for the summer. I saw some of my old friends. I'm like, and they're like, did you meet anyone that was different? I'm like, well, I had a roommate, and it turns out that he was going through this. And they're like, oh God, were you scared to sleep in the same room as him? And I'm like,
dude, I got that from people
Lord.
too.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's not a rapist, he's gay.
No.
Like, should women be afraid to sleep in the same room as you dumb ass?
yeah, no, but it's like, I was like, no, he has self-control, and I don't know that I'm that good looking anyway. So I'm just like, I think for some people, for some people, unfortunately, and I don't think this has changed in 20 years, they immediately associate that with immorality and with things
that they're evil people who go out and do evil things.
Just with deviance in general. Yeah.
There are all sorts of made up statistics about how you're more likely to be a pedophile and stuff like that. And I think that's where, unfortunately, they got some of that information from. And I'm like, this guy is an awesome dude. So no, unfortunately, I never really kept up with this other guy. I hope he's doing well out there. I hope the world has been good to him. I know that right off the bat, that that doesn't make your life easier, it makes it harder. But somebody was telling me they're like, oh, it's so popular to be gay now, and they because they see teenagers coming out and things like that, and I'm like, it's not because it's more popular, it's because people are feeling safer to do that. It's still not safe,
Yeah,
but we're
it's
living.
less blatantly dangerous.
It's less blatantly. It's less blatantly dangerous, and people are admitting this about themselves. It's not cool to do it. I went to a law symposium, and this was, I think, a year or two after the Supreme Court decision that said, okay, you know, gay marriage is something that we're not going to stand in the way of anymore. And this was talking about the impact of that on civil procedure, because, you know, more marriages, more divorce rates, things like that. And one of the speakers, I think because he thought, oh, I'm presenting in North Carolina, granted, they wanted to have a wide variety of thought on the topic, right? But most of the other people were very, you know, stick to this is what we think it means for the law, some things like that.
Oh God, I don't like where this is going.
He thought he was going to be talking to like-minded people, and he put up statistics about how maybe we can start to see this overturned eventually, and about how it, you know, because they can't reproduce, then they're more likely to adopt and pass on those values, and da 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 da. And it got to the question and answer portion, and I think he realized that there were some people in the audience that were not at all. I mean, I think most of the audience was just like, "This is super awkward. We're not going to say anything." But there were some other people like, "Nope, we're going to task on this," and
Nice.
and pulled him out of some things. And one of the comments that he made, one person said, according to this, you know, people are more likely to come out or whatever if they are raised by a homosexual, and I don't think that's completely true. And he's like, well, we just don't want that to happen. And they're like, why wouldn't we want that to happen? He said something like, well, I don't think anyone would wish that for their kids. And
Wow.
yeah, so yeah, and the organizers for the event looked super uncomfortable, because I think they thought, okay, you know, we're going to have some people here, and hopefully they're all going to be respectful toward each other. And again, other people you could tell maybe had some different feelings on this, but everybody kind of put it in the context of, this is what it may mean for us from a legal perspective, not in a moral perspective. And oh, that was wow. Yeah.
Lord. So Saint Seagull in the chat threw 100 bits, so thank you, and says, just because you're attracted to the same sex doesn't mean that everyone of the same sex makes you want to screw them.
Yeah.
And that's right. Keegan told me that I was not his type, which offended me. And also, the only dudes I ever saw him with were big, ugly white dudes. Hello. So, like...
I remember one time several of us were sitting around the common room, and someone asked Joel a question. I don't remember what the specific question was, but then Joel just looked around the room and started pointing at people like, no, definitely not you, no. And I'm like, come on, man.
I mean, you know, as a heterosexual male, and I mean no disrespect toward women, but I am not instantly attracted to everyone that is a woman. This is okay. Don't want to get into too many topics, but it's that whole thought of like, well, you have to be with someone because they're of the type. And I don't get this whole sense of owing attraction to anybody. Where I'm coming from is, you know, that whole quote unquote nice guy phenomenon. And it's that thought that some people feel like, oh, if I'm nice to you, and if I've earned I get to be your boyfriend, and it goes with girlfriend as well. But you hear more about on the boyfriend side, where usually it's some guy that's too timid to be affirmative, and I've just never felt like anybody owes you to be attracted to you. That's not something that you can put points in.
Yeah, it's not transactional.
It's not supposed to be, but some people feel like, oh, this is the way it works, and I'm like, then you don't understand. I've just never felt like anybody owes it to me to be attracted to me. At this point, Carrie better be, otherwise we might have an issue. But I would hope if something changed, she'd let me know. She wouldn't be like, well, ride or die.
Yeah, some people can't handle things that are different. They just can't.
Yeah.
So, okay. Let's say something that taken out of context will be awful. All right? Do you know what is a little weird to me?
What's that?
People who are transgender. You know why it's weird to me? Because I'm not.
Yeah.
You know what else is weird to me? People who collect stamps. Like, it's weird to me in that it's different, and not having had any of the same experiences, I just can't understand. But it's not that it's bad. It's that I don't have those experiences, so I don't get it on a fundamental level.
Right.
Yeah, it's such it's such a different experience that you don't have any context to form coherent thoughts, really.
But that doesn't mean
Yeah.
But you yourself don't think lesser of them as a person.
Oh no.
And
Lord, good Lord.
And for
A significant portion of my audience is trans, and I love them.
Mhm.
And anytime I see anyone being all turfy, I really want to stab those people in the neck. So
and that, I think, is the difference. Is some people feel like if it's different and I don't understand it, therefore
then it's bad.
Then it's bad.
Yeah.
It's immoral. It's not the way we've always done it. So.
Exactly, and that's ridiculous.
But it is
on so many levels that I can't understand those people who feel that way, because I don't, and I don't get it.
But it's actually very big of you to say, I don't get this, because so many people these days would have to say, well, you can't say that. You have to automatically say that you completely get it, and you don't. You don't have to completely get it to respect the person. So
yeah, I don't get people who play standard either. Who keep having to constantly just vomit money into the void so they can keep playing a card game. That is completely alien to me.
A little bit of magic snuck into our podcast, although we're not recording this. So,
I mean, yeah, I'm recording this, but I can't. I don't understand that either. But those people aren't bad; they just have more money than I do.
Way more time.
And way more time. Yeah. Hang on, I had another one. Crap. Oh, I don't understand gay men or straight women, because men are gross.
1,000%. No, you have no idea how much I agree with you, because I've never looked at the male form, even supposedly the best looking men, and I'm like, I don't get it. I'm always to carry. I'm like, is he attractive?
Ooh, I don't know, man. Chris Hemsworth occasionally makes me think some things, but
I had a friend in law school, and yes, I don't want to turn into I had a gay friend or I had a black friend. No, I had a friend in law school, and he was gay, and I said, we talked about some things. I would ask him, does it bother you that it feels like in some entertainment, there's this character and his whole thing is that he's gay, or does that bother? And he said, honestly, it doesn't really bother him. It depends on the medium. So I asked him one point, do you think you could see me as a gay guy? He said, Brian, I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but there's no way in any reality you could ever be gay. And I'm like, well, you're gay. And he's like, yeah, again, I don't know if it's a compliment, but I'm like, okay. Always felt pretty
Well,
comfortable
fun then, man.
about sexuality, and apparently, at least this guy agrees with me. So he's a cool guy. I haven't spoken to him in a little bit.
But like, I mean, just men in general. Like, men are just that whole thing. Men are pigs. They are. We are. I don't gay men and straight women. Like, God bless you. I don't get it.
No, I was speaking more of being attracted, physically attracted to, and I've always had much more of appreciation for the female form. But yeah, you start getting into behavior, it only goes downhill. So
It's way downhill. It's so steep. Like,
if you ever have a question about that, go into a men's restroom that hasn't been cleaned in the last hour.
oh, come on.
Yeah. So I yes, I didn't mean that from a physical form, but then less specific to me. Yeah, men are just gross. I know women can be gross too, but
Yeah, like the fact that, just as an example, the whole existence of the men's rights activists are all the worst people.
Oh yeah.
Like they're just all the worst people, and they're all so proud to be men. And I'm like, y'all need to.
I know. It's just
Not.
like quit whining and grow a pair already.
and I'm sorry, any cisgendered, heterosexual, white male in America, I may not even say just males in this instance, but especially white males in America today, is not being oppressed. So it's been in the news. You heard?
If you feel like people don't like you, it's because you won't shut up.
I'm sure you've heard the news, unfortunately, about
Sorry.
the gentleman that was being detained by the police. The officer put pressure on his neck for an extended period of time,
Mm-hmm.
and he died. Everybody's heard about this?
Yes.
Okay. And there's been a lot of discussion about that police officer and the ones that were observing this have been fired. There's been some discussion about whether or not to bring criminal charges. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I will say that I need to stay away from comments sections, because I went into the comments and most of them were very, affirming and
Dude, you gotta stop that.
I know, but a lot of them were very affirming, and we need to be, paying attention to this sort of thing. Thank God that somebody had this on video, because this could have happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and it wouldn't have gotten any attention. And there has to be a couple people in the comments that are like, well, what about this death? Why aren't we talking about this? And it's a post about a person, like a white person being stabbed by a black guy, or a man passing away from an illness in another state. And what they are trying to say, being devil's advocate, and I really mean that phrase this time, is every life matters. I get that, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a segment of the population that feels like it cannot, that it really actually is being oppressed, that they don't feel like they can really turn to law enforcement to protect their lives. This is why people take the knee during freaking national anthems, is not to piss you off, is to draw attention to the fact that they feel like the world doesn't treat them the same as it treats everybody else. And
that's because it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's why Minneapolis was partially destroyed. Is because you can only take so much shit before you can't take it anymore. And obviously, the people in power aren't going to do anything about it. Like, they tried peaceful things like taking knees, and the white people didn't like that. So now they're going to do some property damage to try to make a point, because it's the only way that the people have any power. And hey, that's what it's come to now.
I mean, I saw on Facebook a while ago, and this was actually years ago when Kirkpatrick started doing that, was like one of those little charts where it's like African Americans that are like, we feel like the world isn't fair, we're going to riot, and the white people are like, no, you can't protest that way, you need to do it peacefully. So then they're like, okay, like this, we're going to walk out of schools. Like, no, you can't do that, your children need education. So then it's a picture of Kirkpatrick, that is how you pronounce his name.
Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, thank you. I'm not a sports.
I was trying to figure out who you were talking about.
I'm not a sports fan, but kneeling and like, okay, so we can do this, right? And they're like, no, just stop protesting and shut up and take it. And that's kind of the message is, you should complain about this, but not in any of the ways that we want you to. And then finally, when you do resort to violence, then to make a point, then, oh, it's because, savages and you can't do it right. And like, ugh.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that the whole movement to free ourselves from British rule started with a riot.
Yes.
Boston Tea Party. Love it.
Yeah, just in case anyone forgets, that was a riot where they destroyed public property to make a point. I'm just saying.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, nobody wants. Do we want anyone to like that's a bystander to suffer any sort of damages as a result of this? Of course not. But at some point, people got to be heard. So
yeah, it's like it's almost like riots happen in direct response to multiple things that pile up and pile up and pile up until there's a riot. It's not like riots just happen just out of the blue, oh, it's Tuesday, it must be time to go out and loot. Like, that's not how this works.
Remind me to set my alarm. Siri, set my alarm for 3 p.m. today.
Yeah.
What is that alarm for? Mass mayhem. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll remind you at 3:30 p.m. So, but even look, I'm not gonna fight, justify necessarily all of it. I'm not trying to wade too deep into the weeds here. All I'm trying to get at specifically is that just because someone is different than you and is going through a different perspective than you doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean that, again, chances are if you live in America and you're cisgendered, heterosexual, white, you're probably gonna be okay. Even if you feel like there's other religions and other ways of thought and someone on the other end of the political aisle or whatever, at the end of the day, you're gonna be just fine. But when you have a segment of the population that is afraid for its sons and fathers to go outside and take a jog, something is not right. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That circles back to the thing about the, all lives matter just being a horrible deflection. Yes, it's right that all lives should matter, but in practice, clearly they don't.
Right.
So,
Black Lives Matter is not trying to say, some people may be taking it, I don't know. Most people are not taking Black Lives Matter to mean only Black Lives Matter. It is trying to draw attention to a specific portion of the population that does not feel safe.
yeah.
So,
Who have been shown that their lives do not matter as much.
right.
Well, when white people not wearing masks in the middle of a global pandemic with assault rifles march into a state house and occupy it for hours, don't get anything. But when people protesting a black man's needless death by the police get tear gassed, like, there's obviously a major problem here.
Yeah. Some of that is because the second group are much softer targets. So the law enforcement feels more confident displaying their own power without, getting shot in the face. Still, major problems.
Yeah. So, wow, we got real political on this, and that's awesome. But, like,
That's partially my fault. I didn't.
no, it's awesome. The whole. Oh god, I had something and it fell off. Hang on.
Oh, that sounds like a personal problem.
There, I know, right? Let's hope it was malignant when it fell off. But yeah, the whole nope, it's going. The whole being, the whole existing while black thing is not. And when, oh no, there have been so many of these that I've George Floyd was the one Brian was talking about. That was his name.
Yes.
But there, like I said, there have been so many of these that I've lost track of their names. But the guy who was jogging.
Yeah, his last name started with an A, and I feel terrible. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But again, so many of these. I'm sorry. I don't want to completely deflect this, but when there's
Arbery.
Yeah.
Ahmaud Arbery. But like, people have dug up like footage of him walking around a construction site and saying, look, see there. As if walking around a construction site is any reason to shoot somebody.
Yeah. And I mean,
But people are trying so hard to justify shooting a black man.
like even Floyd, you know, some of the response I've heard is, well, he was resisting, and I'm like, yeah, okay. First of all, he was in handcuffs at the time, and second of all, even if he was, that doesn't mean he dies. It just doesn't. So, but what I was gonna say is, I think it's such a sad commentary in this day and age when we have so many things going for us at a time when technology is allowing us to do so many things we couldn't even dream of, that there are so many crimes against African Americans by the people that are supposed to be protecting them, and school shootings, that we can't even keep them straight. And no, I'm not trying to venture into a whole new area, but I'm just saying, who in their right mind would think that these are things that happen every day, every week, or ever? I have a 9-year-old. Should I be worried about her going to a school with metal detectors? Should I be worried about her going to a school that has shooter drills?
Those are always fun.
So I'm just saying, and am I equating it? No, but I'm saying that when we live in one of the most advanced countries in the world from a certain perspective, and we live at a time when we are supposed to be more educated and more enlightened than any time previously, if that works the way it should, if we're not entering a new dark ages, which then why are these commonplace things? Why do these happen so often that with the African American situation, we're immediately looking for, oh, well, this is why it happened. And for the school shooting situation, we're wondering, like, well, gee, I guess we can't stop these from happening. Thoughts and prayers. So instead of, like, finding anything to do about them.
Yeah, like chat just pointed out, it took a global pandemic to stop our string of months with school shootings in a row in this country, and the only reason was because no one was in schools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Everybody walks around with all of the knowledge that exists in the palm of their hand or in their pocket, and they don't use it for anything that involves intelligence. We're all just shouting into the void. Like, and I am as guilty as other people. I put out, goofy YouTube videos for people to watch.
There is did you guys ever watch Boy Meets World?
Yes, but a very long time ago.
Vaguely?
Okay. So I loved that show growing up. But there was one episode that at the time made me feel a little bad for myself, and I was like, well, keep in mind when this show started. We're talking about like 1990s, maybe early 2000s. I'll have to look up when it actually ended. But there was an episode where the school is competing in a quiz type game, and the people that are running the quiz show it was actually like either local television or whatever, realized that their ratings were so much higher when the kids would talk about more trivia stuff versus, you know, actual intellectual questions, that they changed the format to be more about pop culture and stuff. And at one point, while they're quote unquote studying for the next round or whatever, the teacher, Mr. Feeney, gets so upset at the students and is saying like, you are living in a golden age. A new website is going up every like 5 seconds. And remember, this was back in the 1990s, so it wasn't like literally 20 every second. This was when the internet was still new. But he said, you have so much information at your fingertips and you use it to learn how to beat King Koopa and save the princess. And I'm sitting there as a kid and I'm like, should I feel bad that I'm not being more educated? Like, because that's what the internet is for, is I really need to beat Bowser, you know? But so at the time I was like, huh. And now sitting here in the context of this conversation, and I'm seeing the actor who played Mr. Feeney give this really impassioned speech to his students about what actually matters, I'm a little like, yeah. Not that there isn't a time and place for entertainment, but yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for the bits, Saint Saigal. He threw 10 of them.
Like individually, like
Yeah. And their little spinning triangle thing is tripping me out.
yeah.
But like, the fact that there exists a large group of people who believe the Earth is flat in 2020. At this point, it's willful ignorance. They will go around their elbow to get to their asshole to try to debunk common science that is just known without realizing how dumb that is. And saying things like, well, I can't see it, so it must not be true. Like, okay, but do you believe in Jesus? Because that's the same thing. And not to throw... I'm the only atheist out of the four of us, but, like, not to throw off on anybody's religion, but, like, you can't say, I can't see it, so it's not true about Earth being round, but then go to church on Sunday and pray to the invisible Avenger in the sky. Those two... Because it's the same... Well, you can, but you're missing basic common logic.
I mean, we've put people in space, you know, so...
These are the,
Allegedly.
what's fun is that you can make an argument that says anything that happened before the day I was born is all fake.
It's all fabricated.
Because
It's all made
in
up.
the day where World War II, yeah, that was all staged.
I am not entirely convinced that when we end this call that you guys will continue to lead separate lives outside of my consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, as far as I know, the world started as the day I was born.
Not even that. The world started the day you became aware of yourself.
There you go.
Mhm.
Which didn't happen
So
until
there
you
you
were, what, 2 or 3 or 4 or something.
And
So-
the fact that I'm hearing you all have a conversation about this is just part of the illusion I've created for myself to make the world consistent.
There you go.
I
So,
wonder
I mean-
how many people actually truly deep in their hearts believe that. Because doesn't everybody want to be the main character in their own story?
Yeah.
And isn't
I mean-
it easier to ascribe other people very, very base roles, one-dimensional characters, instead of thinking that there are 7 billion people in the world currently that all have gone from infancy to wherever they are and have had as many moments in their life as you have? Because it will literally blow your mind. But, oh, no,
Yeah.
just me.
Like, we all do that just to get through day to day, but
Yeah.
the people who can't realize that they're doing it are the ones that worry me.
Yeah.
Like, we live in an age of unlimited information, and yet kids still get shot in schools, and black people are still treated like not human, and people will go out of their way and put great work and effort into refuting things that are just objectively true.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not the 2020 that I was promised when I was, in 1990.
Yeah.
Like in 30 years, we were supposed to have gotten rid of racism and poverty and all that and have flying cars and hoverboards, god damn it! Like
We were promised that in 2015 and we didn't get that.
and it's a bummer. And I don't mean to be a bummer, but it starts with recognizing that these are all problems and then working to fix it. Like teaching the children that different is okay and don't hate the brown people.
Teaching
and,
the children. Teach them.
And such has two daddies, and that's fine. It's not even just teaching the children. It's not putting your own bizarre, antiquated biases in their heads.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, kids will deal with it just fine.
Yeah! There's so many of the, like, oh my god, won't someone think of the children? And you go, well, how do I explain to my daughter that such and such has two daddies? Just like that. You just did. You just did. And if you did, they would go, oh. And then they would keep playing.
Yes. The vast
Like-
majority of the time, a kid is only expecting a very short, direct answer to a question. And they will accept a very short and direct answer.
Yeah, but if you get all weird about it,
They'll
then
feel
that
it.
puts
Pick up on.
yeah, that puts a thing in their head where, oh, this is weird, this is bad. Just be like, yeah, some people have two daddies, some people have two mommies, some people only have one of each, some people don't have any, and the kid will go, oh,
But that isn't what you and mommy have. No. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there
sometimes
came
different.
a point where Chelsea and I have been very, very big on not pointing out, like letting our kids kind of learn a little bit about people and everything. And I'm taking the long way to go around and saying we don't really point out physical characteristics and say that characteristic identifies a person and stereotypes them. Trevor swore up and down in first grade he was going to marry this one girl. She was black. We said, okay. We were going to move, so I mean, it was like, well,
I mean, we're all gonna marry the girl that we love in first grade.
and it wasn't until
Damn.
wasn't until I think it was this year or last year when they were talking about Martin Luther King Jr. when he sort of was like, oh, black and white, and I'm going, and I had to pull him aside and sort of say, that doesn't determine who you are. Just know that there are people who are different.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that person is a good or a bad person. It's no different than your eye color. Leighton's hair is different than yours. That doesn't make him a bad person or anything.
Damn it, Dirk beat me to it. I was gonna say, except for the gingers.
One of the things that we've had to, like Chelsea and I have had to point that out to our kids just so they understand that when things such as this child has two dads, that's not something that said that's an evil thing.
Yeah.
It's just this is okay, and then we can just roll on.
Yeah.
And there are definitely times when we have been concerned when that time comes when people will start pointing out and critiquing others because of those parts of their lives, and we just want to be ones that we head that off and say it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I for one, like, I was part of the thing I'm glad about leaving Facebook for a bit is the people that I went to school with that I was like, yeah, I mean, we're friends and everything. Nowadays, reading some of their posts, I go, okay, if I had known that back in the time, we probably would not have gotten along. because
Right?
some of their views have definitely changed in the time, whereas I've looked and been like, okay, I try to be open and understanding, and I want to see the best in humanity. And some of these people are ones where they don't look at people the same way I do, and I just go, it's a good thing that we went to school together and we have that as something that bridges it, because if we just met each other in public, I would probably say awesome and walked away and prayed I never saw you again, because you would drag me down. Morally, just morally drag me down.
Yeah. Like I'll never forget the time that I found out that one of my old friends at my uh, freshman roommate, actually, his little brother is a horrible racist and asshole. And I'm like, really? That kid that I grew up with? Oh, that's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
Because he was a good kid. And now I just pulled up a Facebook page just because, and it's full of some racist ass right wing nonsense. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. Apparently, if you wear a mask and, shelter in place, then you're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that from his Facebook page right now. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
I'm so tired of that false logic, As far as Sam, just following up with what Dirk was saying, we've had a couple discussions about race, but only ever I've always wanted her to say what she thinks first. And most of the time it's been in the context of, unfortunately, another person, I'm not even going to say who, in one of her classes that has made derogatory remarks. And I'm like, a third grader doesn't just come up with that on their own.
No.
So and we've talked about it, and I'm like, do you agree? And she's like, no, I don't agree with them. I'm like, why? And she's like, because I don't think it's right, and I know people that are like, and they seem fine. And I'm like, very good. I would agree with you for all the reasons you've discussed, but I wanted to hear it from her first. We have not really gone into gender identity, anything like that, but we some of the audiobooks we have done from Rick Riordan, there was a teenage boy that confesses at some point that he was attracted to Percy Jackson and later shows interest in another boy. It happened in the book. We didn't comment because I'm letting her, if she has any questions, ask me about it. And then in the latest book we read, which was based on Norse mythology, there's a gender fluid character. And Sam used the phrase, gender fluid to describe him. And I'm like, cool. So, all right. And she knows if she has questions, we'll talk about it. I think some of those will probably come into more play in the next 2 years as we approach that time that every parent dreads.
When family life gets talked about.
Yes. I'm not at all squeezing something very hard right now when I think about that. But, I think we'll have more of those types of discussions about what that means. But at the time, I'm glad that she's hearing about these things, but it's not done in an agenda way. And if you can't hear my finger quotes around agenda, you're not listening hard enough. It's done through the story, and that's how these characters are. And she seems to just be like, oh, okay. She doesn't come to me and be like, that's weird. Why is he doing that? We just keep reading or listening or whatever. So, yeah. Gentlemen, this has been a fascinating discussion, including the heavier parts. And I've enjoyed a lot of the video game talk and all that. It is 10:30. So I think I'm going to get some sleep. I don't know. There's not really an organic way to cut out of this. I knew like 15 minutes ago when we were super deep in it, I didn't want to do anything. Like I didn't want to just cut and run. But this feels like as good a time as any. I guess I will say, I know we don't usually do final thoughts for just chatting, but I'm hoping that sometime, not right away, but we can start thinking about when we might like to get together again, when we all feel safe and comfortable for that. Not as a way to return to the new normal or whatever, because quite frankly, and I was telling Chewy about this, I don't think that we will ever go back to exactly the way things were before.
They will not.
And in some respects, I'm actually okay with that. But in terms of finding out what we're doing, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again, and hopefully that won't be in the far-flung future, 2022 maybe. So I would say let's just see how things are going, see how we feel, not how society says we should feel or anything like that, but how we feel in the coming weeks, months, and see about when that might be, if that's cool with everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do we have any sense of what is the next set even supposed to be? I've totally is it Zendikar?
Hell, I don't know.
Is
Something,
it Zendikar Rising?
something Zendikar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Zendikar Boogaloo. When is that? I'm gonna do a quick Google search and see if I can't find out. Zendik.
It's Zendikar Rising, but I don't think they've announced a date yet.
Sure, they had one in mind. Who
I'm
knows?
sure they did, but
Who knows what they'll have to change their minds to?
It is the 85th Magic expansion. Ooh, it'll be released in the fourth quarter of 2020. I guess we will have
Like 1,000.
we will have a core set before then, right? So
oh really?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Isn't
Core
that
set is
usually-
usually
Yeah.
before the last expansion set of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think the core set would be over the summer, probably in like July if this
Oh.
was normal, and then the next set would come out in September or October, right? So, yeah. Okay, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. I want to thank you guys for this discussion. I want to add, on a personal note, that when I spoke to Chewy on Tuesday, I was in a kind of a dark place for a variety of reasons. And I even told him I felt so frustrated because you guys know me. I'm generally an optimist. And I am tried to be one of the first people to say, look, whether I'm trying to make myself feel better or whether I'm trying to make somebody else feel better, look, these are all the positive things that are still happening, whether it's magic, real world, media, whatever. And I think by Tuesday, between things that were going on in my family, and then just the weight of the world, yes, the pandemic has not helped. In fact, it's kind of condensed stuff, but seeing bad things just happen and feeling powerless to stop it. I was in a dark place, and I want to thank Chewy and I want to thank the guys, and I'm glad I came tonight. I was already feeling better before tonight, but I think there's something that feels so great about just being able to talk to people that you trust and care about and know that they care about you, and it's great to talk to you guys. So thank you for that.
Well, we love you, Brian.
Love you guys too, and I mean that.
Even though you used to have long hair.
I will find those pictures and I will destroy them. I tried aeons ago. Perhaps I need to take up the hunt once again. Dirk, you said you had one. Which corner of the house, if you were to say north, south, east, west, if you were to say about 300 feet above your house, no reason.
All I said was that I had a picture. I didn't say it was in my house.
Are you the only person that knows where it is? Just hypothetically, if you were to say disappear,
I'll just
would
say that
anyone-
I have no intention of that picture ever getting out in the form of blackmail. That
Good.
picture is meant for memories only.
Yes,
not
it will
for
live.
any other purposes.
It will live in our hearts forever.
That's right. It has. I have no intention of ever using it for ill.
All right, Siri, cancel drone strike. All right, that's good to know, Dirk. I appreciate that. Well, I've set up my reminder for my public demonstration of violence tomorrow. I've called off the drone strike against Dirk. I really don't know what else I can bring to this conversation, so I'm going to tell everybody good night.
Night, B.
I'm going to also bounce out. Chelsea
Yeah,
and
I think we all are.
Chelsea and I have decided that we need to get back into doing our walks and everything. So that's part of it. 5:30 in the morning, my alarm goes off so that we can go out for a walk in the morning, as long as it's not raining and miserable and everything. So we love. I love Disney. Disney's one of those places where you have to walk a lot. I have the stamina for it. Chelsea does not. So we're not going anytime soon, but it's one of those things where we both are kind of looking at each other going, we both really need to get back into shape. So it's one of those things that, like I said, we're both wanting to work on that. So that's sort of our plan. And that's my final thought for tonight. So tonight has been a roller coaster of discussion. So
A little bit.
oh yeah. So it's been something. And unfortunately there's no answer to any of the major questions and concerns that we have. So as much as we love to have answers.
Except there's one answer, Dirk. You need to get on the boat. Do the damn story.
I will end with this one thing. One person was mentioned, and Mike had said that, was like, no. I would like to point out that I was told that I had a really nice butt. And I would also like to point out that this individual jumped into my arms on more than one occasion. Literally.
Well, you do have a nice butt. So, you
yeah,
did. I haven't
was
actually
told
seen your butt in a while.
I have a butt, which is more than most of the people he was interested in had, which is why I was like, you got a nice butt. And then
I used to have an ass. I don't anymore. I don't know where it went.
but I would like to point out that there was one time when there was someone slammed a door or something, and he was standing right next to me, and he jumped into my arms like Scooby-Doo style. And he was looking at me, and I looked at him, and then it was just a case of, okay, I'm putting you down.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
Mm-hmm. But again, like Scooby-Doo style, I'm holding him, and there's like a 5 seconds of me going, I am holding him. Scooby-Doo style. Why am I holding him? And me just like him going, why am I holding you? But that's one of those things that we just really need to reevaluate how we look at other people, because that was incredibly funny. I look back at it and go, that was incredibly funny, as silly as it was at the time. But again, that's from our perspective of you have to learn, you have to get to know people, and when you do, you understand that they're gay. Okay. And
in
what way is this person a horrible person? I mean, he's
one of the people from back in the day that I miss.
Yeah, I mean, he honestly is. He's one of those people that I look back and go, I really wish that we hung out, like we could hang out, because he would probably have way more interesting things to talk about, and would probably interest in, there's a lot of people from college that I miss, and whenever we have gotten together, it has been a blast to get to be with people that you know and have similar values that you do, and they help reinforce you and make you feel better. make you feel more secure with who you are as a person. And that's what I enjoy about our group, is that we're not a group that is out to say, you know, these people are bad. There are some people who are really just big dicks, but that's because it feels like they are very close-minded and they are unwilling to get to know people and broaden their horizons. And that was one thing that, if nothing else with our discussion tonight, college was one of those times when we got out of our conservative, you know, backgrounds, or the conservative areas we grew up in, and friends we had, to broaden ourselves.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't give that up for the world. That I got to meet people that have helped me be a better person. And with that, I am going to go ahead and sign off and head on to bed.
Well, have a good night, Zerk.
I shall. And that goes for all the listeners, too. Good night, guys.
I'm so lucky that all of the people that I do shows with aren't dicks.
We may not always
Man.
agree, but I would say that none of us have been like, well, I think you are a stupid blah, 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 blah. Because, again, yeah, we know each other enough, and we know that we may not agree, but we also respect each other's thoughts and beliefs on that. So,
But also, none of you hate brown people. Like,
Yeah, none of us have
It's
any
so-
reprehensible opinions.
yeah, it's so nice to not like
be around terrible.
like to be hoping the entire show. God, I hope Dirk doesn't say something about brown people. Like, I don't have that thought
Mm-hmm.
because Dirk doesn't have that thought.
No.
So I don't have to have that thought. And I've had to deal with people in very not like doing shows with them, I don't think, that I've had to be like, God, I hope you don't bring up the thing that you. Oh, come on.
All right.
Oh.
Good night, guys.
Night, Zerk. Well, do you have any sort of last big sweeping thing like the other two did, or are we just done?
With all the things, there are so many things in our lives that are social constructs, but can't really fit the phrase social construct into a sentence that you'd respond to an 8-year-old with. So the tricky thing for me in the future is going to be finding those snappy, short, to the point answers that a kid is expecting. But I think I'm clever enough to figure it out. We'll just see.
You're pretty clever.
Thank you.
I have no big final sweeping thing. I got all of my stuff out actually during all that discussion. So I guess we'll just say, hey everyone, thanks so much for coming to hang out. Although we've hemorrhaged viewers here at the last little bit once we started to get deep, and then whatnot. It's just people just left. But hey, that's what happens, and I don't care. We have to use our platform, no matter how small it is, to try to say true things. Since there are people with much bigger platforms who make a habit of saying false things, and then try to get fact checkers abolished or something. Still not sure how that works, but
Oh gosh,
fact checkers are the enemy of lies. So
what a mess that's going to be when it goes through the courts. Can you imagine?
well. But anyway, so I guess, yeah, thanks everyone for coming to hang out, and we will see you later.